Good morning, friends. Good morning. Happy who knows what time of year it is this morning. It's supposed to be spring, right? Welcome to the Boise Unitarian Universalist Fellowship. I'm the Reverend Sara LaWall. It is my great honor to serve this beloved community. We are a spiritually diverse, justice-seeking religious community with one great aim: to grow in love. Love of neighbor, love for ourselves, and love for our planet. I am joined today by Debra Smith, who is serving as our celebrant, by our special musical guests, the River Twice, booth members Gordon and Tamera Hamilton. It's so lovely to have you back with us. On cajon, my lovely spouse, Michael Alvarado. This time accompanying the music, not writing his own. What? He's surprised. Our fabulous music director, Carrie Bastian. Our director of family ministries, Emerson-Paige. And our amazing, newly organized booth dancers. And of course, all of you. And we have an extraordinary day today. It's going to be a great day. We have a lot going on because today is Celebration Sunday. Celebration Sunday is the day that we celebrate the amazing progress of our combined capital campaign and annual giving drive, and the vision that it has embraced towards building a new way in imagining a carbon neutral future by replacing our HVAC system, building a new way by imagining more serenity and beauty in a redesign of our sanctuary space to be a refuge of welcome and community for ourselves and for the larger community, building a new way by ensuring that we can care for and maintain our beautiful buildings and campus for generations to come. There's been so much heart put into this campaign, and we are so close to our goal. We are so close, and we'll make a special announcement about where we are after the service, but I do want to take a moment to say some really important thank yous. First, to our campaign leadership team, led by Nick Kofod. I butcher that name every time, Nick, I'm sorry. And Andrew Burton, would you stand up? I will get it right before it's over. Joined by, with so much applause, joined by Roger Sherman and Jim Gettings. Jim is here. And Patty Hedges, our amazing event coordinator back there. To all of our amazing volunteer stewards, if you have been a volunteer steward during this campaign, would you raise your hand for us, please? Yes, thank you, stewards. And thank you to all of you who have made a pledge to the campaign and to our annual giving drive. And if you haven't, please don't worry, it's not over yet. We are just like, we're just racing. We're just racing to get there. We're so close, but we still pause to celebrate the vision, to celebrate our progress, to celebrate the extraordinary community that comes together to achieve its dreams and to follow its calling. And so we have a party planned for after the service, a real party. So we invite you to stick around, don't go anywhere, because we have food for you. We have treats for you. We have special music from the Midnight Jazz Cats you saw setting up in our entryway over there, with led by booth member Blake Olson. And while we're taking a moment to reset here in the sanctuary because we decided to move inside given the unfortunate weather today, we have a very special treat from a brand new member, Lisa Moser, who has brought her cookie truck. And it will be parked outside of our north doors. And so you have a ticket on your chair for one free cookie. And you can head out the north doors. You can get some coffee in the entryway and go grab a cookie. And we'll take some time to quickly reset in here. So thank you all so much for being part of this day, this campaign, this vision, and all of our dreams for a future together. And we honor those visions and those dreams and the calling of this community each week by lighting a flaming chalice, a symbol of our free faith, a beacon of hope, love, and justice. And we often invite a young person to light the chalice to help remind us of our promise to the future, of the legacy that we build for generations to come. So Carissa Benoit, expert longtime chalice lighter, is gonna light our chalice for us today. And for those of you in our Zoom community, we celebrate you too. I'm sorry I left you out. Let's take a quick wave at our Zoom community. Hello, friends. It's so good to have you there. It's so good for you to be with us to remind us that we worship together beyond the walls of this sanctuary. So if you have a chalice nearby or a candle, we invite you to light it with us as Carissa lights the chalice here in our sanctuary, and then share in the chat where your chalice is lit. Here you are, you're on our screens now. So if you have a moment to turn on your cameras, we can see you and welcome you. Teresa and Sue, good morning. Justin and Pamela, good morning. Linda. I can't see all the names. Good morning, Jane. It's so good to see everyone. Morgan and Laura and Lauren and Laurel Case. So, Carissa, you got this? Okay, let's light our chalice. Thank you. We've been inviting our chalice lighters through the time of this campaign to share with us a favorite memory of this community. So do you have one in mind? Do you remember, Carissa, a time when you lit the chalice and had to step on that stool?
Yeah.
Yeah, I do too. But share your favorite memory.
My favorite memory is like the adventure garden outside and the play area that is also outside.
Thank you. Those are favorite memories of so many of our young people and grown people who grew up in this congregation too. Singing is one way that we celebrate together and express the fullness in our hearts. So I invite us all to rise in body or spirit and to sing this beautiful hymn, number 168, One More Step, to remind us there's always more we can do, and there is also always time for celebration.
As we gather together, we acknowledge that the land upon which our church and homes exist is the ancestral land stolen from the people of the Shoshone Bannock, the Shoshone Paiute, Coeur d'Alene, Kootenai, and Nez Perce nations, along with many other tribes whose names have been lost in history. We acknowledge that our presence here today is founded upon the exclusions and erasures of many Indigenous peoples. With this acknowledgement, we wish to demonstrate our ongoing commitment to the work of dismantling the legacies of settler colonialism. We honor Indigenous peoples' connection to the land and support their right to sovereignty.
I just want to share with you that when we worship together now, hybrid style, sometimes we don't get to see each other. We don't get to see our Zoom community, but they are there and they are active and they are chatting and they are sharing in the chat where they have lit their chalices this morning. And it's really lovely. So I don't usually have my phone on, but I was just kind of watching it blow up. And the chalice is lit on River Court and in Virginia, Terry Kay, and in Pocatello, Justin and Pamela are there. Happy graduation, Dennis, who's graduating from ISU. Nick and Andrew are the best. That's in the chat too. So I just want to share with you. I mean, we all think that. So I just want to share with you the joyfulness that is happening in our online community as we all worship together. It's a new month, and with a new month comes a new spiritual theme. And this month we dive into the theme of vocation, the practice of living with purpose. Today we explore what collective vocation and purpose might mean for a church community and how we live into it and celebrate it. So as we enter into this time of worship together, I invite us all to take a breath together. Fill your body with breath. Breathe, knowing that our breath connects us to our bodies, to one another, to our planet. Our breath offers us an opportunity for stillness, to tune in to our spiritual center and listen deeply to our heart's own longing. Thou art the song of my heart in the morning. Thou art the dawn of truth in my soul. Thou art the dew of the roses adorning. Thou art the woven whole. Thine is the grace to be steadfast in danger. Thine is the peace that none can destroy. Thine is the face of the need-riven stranger. Thine are the wings of joy. Thou art the deep, to the deep in me calling. Thou art a lamp where my feet shall tread. Thy way is steep past the peril of falling. Thou art my daily bread. Thine be the praise of my spirit uplifted. Thou art the sea to each flowing stream. Thine be the days that are gathered and sifted. Thou art the deathless dream. As we celebrate our campaign and the progress and the generosity and the vision, we have a special treat for our campaign theme song shared by our booth dancers this morning.
our cry. Common neutral is our cry. Common neutral is our cry. Our earth and future must survive. We are building a new way. Place of refuge from the fray. Place of refuge from the fray. Place of refuge from the fray. Serenity and peace and play. We are building a new way. 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 Feeling stronger every day. We are building a new way.
Serenity and peace and play. What a wonder to be called to belong, to turn our longings into living, to live into our love for each other, to fashion a commonwealth, putting our wealth into the dream we hold in common. A beautiful building we will pass down way past our own lifetimes. Call this the legacy we built with our longings. A place where we worship freely and free ourselves from pursuits unworthy of the divine beings we believe ourselves to be. Come, let us worship together. I invite you now into Reverend Sarah's description of the Time for All Ages.
We are building a new way all the time. Dancers, that was delightful and enjoyable. And as a beloved community, always building our way into beloved community, we remind ourselves of our commitments to being a multi-generational community, a community of generosity and a community of care. So I would like to invite all of our young people down front over on this side here for our Time for All Ages. And Jem is gonna come up and join, and Debra is gonna be our Vanna White.
Join me, friends. Hello, lovely faces. I was so ready this morning to wear bright yellow clown pants, bright yellow shirt, and just dress up for Celebration Sunday. And it didn't feel like the right outfit. So today I am dressed as a cloud to pivot. Last week, our Time for All Ages was a wonderful walking meditation, and I hope everyone, in whatever way you are able to, took that into the week and took some mindful steps maybe, or took your usual walk a little slower. On our way out of the sanctuary last week, all of our children and youth paused at the wonderful art that is imagining up what our sanctuary refresh, redesign could look like. And we had a brief conversation about a lot of things, but we ended on the question, what does it mean to see into the future? How can we see into the future? And we had a lot of really big ideas, but unfortunately not all of us are able to call up Dr. Strange on the phone or have our own time machine or our own power gem. I don't even know all the references.
Next capital campaign, we'll build the time machine.
Next time. We'll work on it. We'll envision it next time. But there are some ways that our wonderful, wise children and youth knew that we could rely on to see into the future. And the biggest one, besides reading sci-fi, has been imagining it, making maps of it, making pictures of it, planning for it, and then putting in the work and waiting for the future to arrive, waiting for that vision to come through. As the capital campaign has been going a couple of Sundays now, our children have been putting their own work into visioning what our sanctuary refresh could look like. And I want to share with you some of those wonderful ideas now. We kind of divided them up by age group, so I'd like to show you our kindergartners' ideas first. So, my wonderful helper. We started off by picturing and picking our favorite things. Each group, the goal was picture your favorite things that you know you want to bring, and then get creative. So we have our chalices. One of them, I think, is a special turnip chalice.
Yes. Yes.
Other one, you can see up on the screen as well. Other one is a chalice as tall as the ceiling.
Yes.
Big ideas. The kindergartners were very excited for me to show Reverend Sarah specifically. We have here Gary the fish in his fish tank. We have to make room for him. He also walks on land.
Yes.
We want to make sure he's welcome.
It's the future.
We have access. They made sure to include the parking lot. You have to love that. And then someone has a dedicated timeout room with a barred door.
Woo!
Make of that what you will.
Beware, friends.
All right, you're welcome to set that down. There are many other details. I encourage you to come take a look. Our next group was our elementary kids, and they made a huge visioning of they focused on the North Sanctuary. They were so,
Wow.
there's this play between being very, very detail-oriented. They included the ukulele on my bookshelf. The air vents. They want to make sure we have air vents.
Yes, we do too.
Right? They included our 8 principles song. They included our poster that says diversity makes all the difference in the world. They included all these little details. It was pitched more than once that we turned the entire North Wing into a bouncy house.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. Why not?
We have big visions and we've got small details, and that's always we always have to balance those things. There's a lot. Yeah, you did. Thank you, Cece. I think it was a good idea. I don't think it's quite where we're at. Maybe when we have a time machine.
Your idea.
They love strings of lights. They love greenery. As soon as in our conversation about what makes a space sacred, we touched on how it feels to be in nature and how we can pull that into our space. You could just feel the stillness and wonder settle into them as they looked out the windows and imagined new colors, more greenery, more textures. This idea of nature in our space really hit home as sacred for them. Unfortunately, I don't think that we can make our windows bigger, but we had a lot of other beautiful ideas. Our very last, but very not least, was our youth. They designed our sanctuary. So it was a couple of elder elementary kids.
Wow.
I think the biggest thing for them was art and having a just visually engaging yet calming space. We have custom designed chandeliers. Yeah, Conley?
Yes. Rainbow chandeliers.
Rainbows. They love our community tree. They wanted to make sure that we bring that back with us. They fully embraced this new pulpit design in it. Art and greenery. And, so they also have pitched pitch to our congregation that we take on an assistant pastor, minister, Reverend Cricket.
Reverend Jiminy Cricket.
Reverend Jiminy Cricket. I imagine that that's pretty, in terms of cost of living, that's probably pretty cheap for our congregation to take on.
Well, I think Reverend Jiminy needs to join me at the pulpit today, don't you? Yeah. Right there. There's a spot carved just for the cricket.
Perfect. Reverend Jiminy Cricket. So we had such big ideas, and there was so much that they tapped into that they love here. They love what's present, and oh boy, did they embrace nature and art and beauty as something that needs to come into the next design with us.
Thank you. You all, this is really awesome. How many of you were part of the building? How many of you down here? Yeah? You're part of the building? I love your creativity. I love your big dreams and big visions. And what's really interesting and what I love the most is that there are a lot of shared ideas that the adults are having and you are having about nature and art. And did you look at these gorgeous stained glass windows in this one? And light and even some sparkle, because I like sparkle. So really, really good job. Thank you for sharing your creative ideas and your creative vision with us and your hope for the future. And we hope that we can do right by you. And while we may not get all of your visions this time, when you are the grown-ups of the church and you do your capital campaign, then you can just go even further with your time machine and bouncy house and all of that. Dr. Strange, let's just bring him in. He should, guest preach in the pulpit. I love the idea of all North Wing bounce house. Could you just imagine bouncing through the North Wing? Like that'd be really cool. So thank you. Let's all join together in singing our community blessing together as you all go get to have some more exploration time together in your RE classes.
When we give, we say yes to the natural cycle of abundance in our lives, and we say yes to building beloved communities within and beyond these walls. We commit ourselves to do the work for justice and compassion for all and all people and our earth. Today we share our gifts with our plate partner, Planned Parenthood, who shares our vision that all people, especially vulnerable women, can fulfill their calling to build a life of meaning. I invite the ushers to come forward. Our offering will be gratefully received.
Well, Picasso wasn't colorblind. I drink whiskey, he drank wine. He couldn't help but cross the line. Saw the world through Venetian blinds. Picasso is a friend of mine. Imagine a world without his kind. I think about him all the time. And Van Gogh painted Starry Night from a room with east light. Lost his ear in a sword fight, gave it to a girl that night. Van Gogh is a friend of mine. Imagine a world without his kind. I about him all the time. And Da Vinci knew the Illuminati. He measured the limbs of the human body. Was a friend of the Mona Lisa. Could have fixed the Tower of Pisa. Da Vinci is a friend of mine. Imagine a world without his kind. I think about him all the time. Everyone leaves a story, a tale to be told, something to think about now that I'm getting old. Well, Newton was hit by a falling apple, saw the world like a big pool table. He invented calculus, still confuses most of us. Newton is a friend of mine. Imagine a world without his kind. I think about him all the time. And Einstein played the violin. He changed the universe we live in. Go too fast and you'll get scared. Now it's E=mc². Einstein is a friend of mine. Imagine a world without his kind. I think about him all the time. Oh, Heraclitus saw the river twice. He gave us some advice. You might want to, but you can't go back. Memories are all you have. Heraclitus is a friend of mine. Imagine a world without his kind. I think about him all the time. Well, I'll never be no Heraclitus, but we all got genius inside us, so let it blaze, let it shine. Turn your water into wine. You are a friend of mine. Imagine a world without your kind. I think about you all the time. I think about you all the time. I think about you all the time.
Love it. Thank you. I'd like to invite our ushers to come forward with our offering gifts and invite all of you to join together in our collective blessing of these gifts. We bless these gifts, so freely given. May generosity always be our companion as we walk the holy path towards ever greater compassion and beauty. Thank you, friends. Throughout our campaign time each year, much like the NPR Pledge Drive, we have testimonials from members and leaders and friends of the congregation to share a little bit about what this fellowship means to them and what being a part of this campaign means to them. And today I am really delighted to introduce to you Julia Pope, one of our board members and also known by many as a fabulous cello player from whom we get to hear time to time.
Thank you, Sarah. Boof is an objectively funny name. It reminds me of the sound you make when you fall, but then you're caught by something soft and supportive, which actually makes it a very apt name as well for this congregation. We've been attending Boof for around 15 years. I don't know exactly when I started arriving here because I would pop a toe in and then leave and not come back for like 6 months. And then pop a toe in and go do 2 services and then leave and not come back. And then I started missing it. And then we decided to start a family. And things really change when you're not just responsible for yourself anymore. So we made a list. What are the things we want for ourselves as religious people, as religious learners, as non-religious people? And what do we want for our children growing up in, admittedly, a very religious area? What challenges will they face that we need to prepare them for? So the first thing we wanted was a place where we could learn, a place where we could learn about other faiths, about other ideas, to agree and to disagree respectfully without anybody going, oh, you can't think that. Oh, you can't do that. What do you mean you don't believe that? So that narrowed it down quite a bit, actually. The second thing we needed was a place where we could be authentically ourselves on this journey, because none of us are really finished. Becoming an adult doesn't mean you stop and stay stagnant. It just means you're not growing as quickly as children do. So we wanted a place where I could be myself with my beliefs, and my husband Jeff can be himself with his beliefs, and my children can be themselves with their beliefs, and those beliefs don't have to be the same. That was very, very important to us, a place where we could be theists or atheists or agnostics or I don't knows, where we could investigate Judaism and Buddhism and Hindus and Muslim and everything and nature-based, all of the stuff. We wanted all of it. That narrowed it down quite a bit too. And then we had an experience that was very, very funny because I was asking lots of questions. I'm sure you're very shocked by that. I was asking lots of questions. Well, what about this? What about that? But historically speaking, that couldn't have been said because in ancient Greek, blah, blah, da, 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 da. And the poor minister, it was either a minister or a deacon, I do not remember which, I think they got a little frustrated and they said, shh, don't think. Just have faith. So we didn't go back. And then with our children, some of you may or may not know, I also teach school. I teach in the public school system, and I've taught at the elementary level, the middle school level, the high school level. But when I was at the elementary level, I noticed something unusual, at least unusual for someone who grew up in the Seattle area, in a liberal congregation. I was raised Episcopalian, so I was a liberal person in a liberal place with liberal parents, and then I moved here. And what I noticed here is starting at around second grade, so these are children that are 7 or 8 years old, they would, at recess, or just before recess, ask questions like, well, where do you go to church? And I noticed that no matter what the other child said, as long as they said something, it was fine. Oh, we attend, da, 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 da. It was fine. And then, oh, okay, and then they went out to play. Except the children who said, oh, we don't go to church. And then the children would leave without them, and they wouldn't play with them anymore. And I didn't want that for my children. I didn't want whether or not they attend a place of worship or not to determine whether or not they are ostracized by their peers. But I also wanted them to be in a place where whoever they grew up to be was okay. I didn't want them to grow up in a place that told them, we love you, Jesus loves you. Some restrictions may apply. Because that's very painful. It's very painful to be loved and supported and then dropped. And I didn't want that for my children, and I don't want that for anybody's children. That's unkind. So I needed a place that was kind. And then the other thing, I've already mentioned that I moved here from the Seattle area. My husband is also from the Seattle area, which means our closest relative is 500 miles away. For the most part, we're alone. It's just us. And, you know, when it's just you and you're both working, that's fine. But it's not enough when you start to add to your family. And we had a set of twins. Twins is not easy. No baby is easy. We have good babies, but they were not easy. They're 13 now. They're fantastic. But we knew that we would need something that wasn't just us anymore. We needed a family. We needed a community. One that would love us for who we were, one that would love our children for who they were. And that's when we came here. And you'll never guess what we found. We found what we were looking for. We found a place where, as a new mother, I could take my children to the nursery and then sit down for a whole hour and think like big thoughts, as opposed to, where are your socks? We found a place that welcomed us so fully that the congregational care team fed us for an entire year while we raised these babies on our own, with all of the doctor visits and all of the medical problems and all of the things that goes into a major life change. We found a place that accepts that children grow up and children need to be educated, and they need to know that adult decisions have adult-sized consequences or results, and that these things are important for children to know before they make those decisions so they can make them fully understanding what they're doing. That pretending children don't grow up is not an option. We found a place where there is beautiful music, and I'm sure I don't need to tell you that music is extremely important to me. We found a place where we can have conversations over coffee. We can meet for friendship dinners. We have potlucks. We can go camping together. We found an amazing space that has given so much to us over the last 15 years. And because those gifts are freely given and freely received, we also choose to freely give and freely receive. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Julia, for those beautiful reminders and the story. It's always so lovely during this time of testimonials to hear the stories of how people found the fellowship and how the fellowship has been such a significant part of their lives. And now Julia is a significant part of the future of this fellowship, having been on the board. And as a new board member, our new board members came in like right at the height of HVAC systems breaking, and it was just full speed ahead. And so they are deep, deep in it, and we thank you for your contributions and gifts to this fellowship. I invite us all to sing together. Let us rise in body or spirit and sing of our promise and our dream, this hymn, Come Build a Dream. Those of you that are familiar with beloved hymn, We'll Build a Land, this is that hymn with slightly adjusted lyrics, and that's the tune we'll be singing. Thank you. I love that hymn so very much. It kind of oozes a beautiful visionary purpose, doesn't it? Do any of you remember the early 2000s and the hype of the purpose-driven life and the purpose-driven church? Bet you read it, Reverend Elizabeth. These were books that were written by Pastor Rick Warren, who served as the lead pastor of Saddleback Church in Orange County, California. Saddleback continues to be one of the largest evangelical Christian churches in the world, with campuses all over the country and around the globe. The purpose-driven church sold over 1 million copies, the record for any book written about church. And the purpose-driven life sold over 50 million copies, and both were translated into many languages. But when these books were published, I was working for the Unitarian Universalist Church in Pasadena, so we were very aware of Saddleback Church and its wide reach and influence, as really was everyone at the time. This was the time of rapid growth of the evangelical megachurch movement, and mainline Protestant denominations like ours, and even the Catholics, were studying the evangelical church to try and glean some tips for how to encourage such church growth. And we were applying some of the strategies to our own UU churches. This was the era of starting contemporary worship services with contemporary music, with bands and drums, with more singing and overall more casualness, more informality. This was also the era of igniting small group ministry, creating programs for small groups, base communities to follow for deeper spiritual exploration and connection, oftentimes meeting in people's homes, hearkening back to those days of the house church, those days that this congregation began from. And all of these things were really good shifts in church culture, in UU culture too, although not always enthusiastically embraced by Unitarian Universalist churches, especially some of those whose histories go back hundreds of years and whose services were steeped in classical music culture with pipe organs and large choirs that sang every Sunday. They had some adjusting to do with the contemporary music worship service. But when I was the religious educator in Pasadena, I ended up taking a group of our junior high youth to visit Saddleback Church as a part of our neighboring faiths curriculum, the curriculum where we were exploring all kinds of different faith communities and visiting them during the exploration. So we'd been to a Hindu temple, to a Buddhist community, to the Jewish synagogue, even to in LA, we have the Self-Realization Fellowship in Malibu with all these cool temples, lots of places, to the Quaker Church, least favorite among the junior high kids sitting in silence. So Saddleback Church, woo! Given the popularity of the mega churches and the growing influence, I thought they should experience this Disneyland of churches in Orange County. And it kind of was a bit like Disneyland, complete with parking attendants and coffee carts where you could buy your fancy coffee drink before worship, and themed worship tents in addition to the sanctuary where you could choose to worship with your preferred style of music and watch the sermon streamed in from the main sanctuary. These tents had themes like the gospel tent and the rock tent and the luau tent. The campus was huge. It might have been rivaled the size of Disneyland, in fact. The children's education area had a rock climbing wall rising up right through the center of the classrooms. And the outdoor baptismal pool looked like the most beautiful backyard stone-tiled hot tub. I was ready to immerse myself. The kids, at first, as you can imagine, were quite mesmerized and envious. And also later, when we got back to our church, they expressed some skepticism, even as they asked why we couldn't have a rock wall and ping pong tables and a basketball hoop. Now, I should say we did end up getting ping pong table and a basketball hoop. But when I asked them what they learned from the experience or what they got from it, what they understood from the messages, both formal and informal, like the sermon and the music, they had a hard time defining it. They heard and named that they'd heard a lot about God and Jesus in your life and about trusting God and praying. But mostly they were caught up in the spells of guitars and drums and lights. They chose the rock tent. And I will admit, I was totally sucked in. I am a fan of contemporary music and contemporary worship. I have always said I would make a great contemporary evangelical because I love the immersiveness of it all, the experience, the loud music and the lights. I mean, I would make a great evangelical were it not for the problematic theology. I want to pause for a minute here and say just a little note that the lights, the colorful uplights that we've been talking about for our newly redesigned sanctuary space will not be anything close to the light show in the rock tent, despite my own personal temptation. But on this day, our young junior high Unitarian Universalists, they saw behind the cool factor of it all. They saw behind the facade of this vibe of alternative Christianity. And they noticed and named something that was like a slickness. They were able to share that they kind of felt like the church was trying too hard to sell itself or something by making it look and feel cool with coffee and snacks and people that smiled way too much. Their words, not mine. And I just kept thinking about this idea of consumer Christianity. From this community whose leaders' words were about being and living with purpose, and those words were exploding in the cultural zeitgeist, it was really hard to figure out the purpose of this church that felt shiny and happy and sounded really good. In his talk about the purpose-driven church, because I watched a lot of videos, Rick Warren preached on some of the principles, and interestingly, some of them I found really compelling and spot on. He asked the question, what is the church? What is the church? Think about how you might answer that question for yourselves as Unitarian Universalists. What is the church? Well, Pastor Rick reminded people that the church is not the building. Okay, Rick, I can get behind that. I'm not sure that's what we notice when we're on your campus. The building is important for supporting the community and helping us pursue our purpose, but the building isn't the church. The church is the community. Now, here are my words, just to clarify. The church, this church, our church, is a spiritual community connected by shared values to help us individually and collectively discover, live into, connect with our purpose. But how do we even know what our purpose is or supposed to be? I've been ruminating a lot on purpose and vocation all week. What does it mean? Is purpose necessary to have fulfillment? Does everyone have a purpose? Does it change over time? What is my purpose? What is our purpose? When I was growing up, there was this conversation that was happening in the spaces that I inhabited at home and at school that having a purpose equaled fulfillment. That one's work or chosen career could and should align with one's purpose, and that if you pursued that, if you did that, if you felt that deep passion and calling for your work, your chosen field, it would bring such deep meaning and success that it wouldn't feel like work at all. Carrie's laughing the loudest over there. And now that I'm working, I think, is that really true? I'm not so sure about that. That hasn't really been my experience. I do feel like I have a calling to ministry. And I know that many of you feel deeply called to the work that you do, to particular aspects of it. And for me, ministry often feels like some of the hardest work I've ever done. I've had failures and experienced deep loss and devastation and screw-ups, alongside some amazing accomplishments and deep, deep joy and extraordinary connection. And I will tell you, I still have very little idea how to measure success. And before ministry, I was called to something completely different. Before ministry, I felt called to be an actor. Since the time I was 10 years old, I took classes as a kid and did community theater, and I studied it in school, and I got a BFA in acting, and I pursued it with fervor for more than 10 years in Los Angeles. Needless to say, I was not able to make a career of it. And as I came to terms with finding a new career path, I struggled for a long time with how to make sense of my purpose and this idea of vocation in light of failure. How could this thing that I loved so dearly be my true calling if I had very little to show for it? And over the years, I've come to understand and realize that I think we've confused purpose with work. We've brought purpose into this cultural obsession with productivity and with labor, with achievement and success, and we've turned it into a pursuit that we are compelled to measure. And for the church, often that measurement looks like growth. And sometimes that leads to maybe a little tiny bit of consumerism. And suddenly, then a purpose-driven church must be a church that's hyper-focused on growth, on external measurements, on expanding and creating new programs and projects and services and new strategies and new systems. But in this new era that we find ourselves in this era of late-stage capitalism and climate disaster and political division and war and constant upheaval in our world and our country and our communities, in this era when the precarity and fragility of life and our planet feels always ever more present and ever more concerning, we might benefit from reimagining purpose. We might benefit from building a new way, from moving from purpose-driven to curiosity-driven. I like the curiosity-driven church. The curiosity-driven church that moves from pursuit and purpose to the root of the word vocation, which is to call. And to start then asking ourselves, what is calling to us? Not what do we want to achieve, but who do we want to become? And then letting our curiosity-driven selves and community evolve from there, which is the path that this beautiful vision and campaign has taken, asking questions with curiosity about who we want to become, and then imagining how we want to get there, rather than the other way around. And in a church, especially in a Unitarian Universalist church, whose theology, as Julia so beautifully described, is intentionally expansive and pluralistic, honoring many ideas and beliefs and paths to the holy, many ideas about the nature of life and death, and many different spiritual practices. a living tradition who honors continued evolutionary theology and process, our own and the church's. Our vocation can be articulated in a wide variety of ways, and then lead to a whole variety of ways to live into that vocation. Not to achieve it, or conquer it, or master it. A true curiosity-driven vocation likely has no definitive finish line or successful completion. So all we can do, and truly the real task that this faith invites us into, is to keep living into that calling. The theologian Frederick Buechner describes vocation as the place where your deep gladness and the world's deep hunger meet. If we truly discover our vocation leading with curiosity, which, if we're being true to our UU identity, values, and theology, that vocation can change over time. And we're asking, what is calling to us? Not just what we're called to do, but what is calling to us? Then what we might notice is that there is room for a whole variety of ways to live into and engage with that vocation. As I was ruminating on this sermon, here's a few ideas that came to me when I think about how we might express our vocation. And I encourage you to think of your own ideas as well. We might express it as building beloved community, or as holding love at the center, as journeying toward wholeness, healing, and transformation, as nurturing spirits and healing the world, as lifting hearts, broadening minds, and enacting justice, words from our own mission statement. I'm sure that you have some great ideas of your own. Each of these expressions of vocation holds some kernel of deep gladness, for me anyway. I hope it holds some gladness for you. In them, I see all the incredible, beautiful, powerful ways that members of this fellowship have lived into those ideas of vocation, who have brought them to life over the years. In all the ways that we continue to meet the world's hunger with deep gladness, all the ways we continue to welcome and love each other and our larger community, we invite all of us to live into this vocation, to come and build a dream with us, like the words of our hymn, to build a dream of people together, anointed by Spirit, who create peace, and where justice shall roll down like waters and love like an ever-flowing stream. So our collective vocation and all that emerges from it invites each of us to curiously explore, connect, create, innovate, lead, serve, and give and receive with joy. And that is worthy of celebrating every day, every week, every year. And that is what a Celebration Sunday is all about. And so let's celebrate together, friends.
Kind friends all gathered round, there's something I would say, that what brings us together here has blessed us all today. Love has made a circle, holds us all inside. Strangers are as family, and loneliness can't hide. yourself to love, if love is what you're after. Open up your hearts to the tears and laughter. Give yourself to love. Give yourself to love. Well, I've walked these mountains in the rain, and I've learned to love the wind. Been up before the sunrise to watch the day begin. I always knew I'd find you, though I never did know how. Like sunshine on a cloudy day, you stand before me now. So give yourself to love, if love is what you're after. Open up your hearts to the tears and laughter. Give yourself to love. Give yourself to love. Well, love is born in fire. It's planted like a seed. Love can't give you everything, but it gives you what you need. Love comes when you are ready. It comes when you're afraid. It'll be your greatest teacher, best friend you have made. So give yourself to love, if love is what you're after. Open up your hearts to the tears and laughter. Give yourself to love. Give yourself to love. Give yourself to love, if love is what you're after. Open up your hearts to the tears and laughter. Give yourself to love. Give yourself to love.
That expresses a really beautiful vocation right there. Give yourself to love. Give ourselves to love. I want to take a moment to hear from all of you, to express some shared celebrations of the ways that you have experienced this community giving itself to love, the ways that you have experienced community living into its purpose and our calling in the world, especially over these last several years. What is it that you want to celebrate? Share some celebrations. I know you have them. Peggy Lynn, thank you for kicking it off. Tell me.
I had a rough couple of years, and I don't handle grief well, but I discovered that this is my emotional support church. And I just want to thank all of you for being there for me when I needed you so much.
Thank you, Peggy. For those on Zoom and who didn't hear, Peggy said that she has discovered over the past couple of years in some struggle that this is her emotional support church. May it be so for all of us when we need it most. Carol.
Ditto what Peggy said.
Ditto what Peggy said.
I don't know how I would have made it without the church.
Thanks, Carol. Ditto what Peggy said. Gordon.
Yes, my mother's birthday, Cinco de Mayo. She's a lifelong, well, not a lifelong, but most of her life a Unitarian. And she died at 102, but we're celebrating her birthday today.
Celebrating. And celebrating the Unitarians that brought their children into Unitarian Universalism. You as well, friends.
You accept British people.
Why, thank Why, thank you, kind sir. We accept British people and all people. What are some other celebrations? John Connor, I see you over here, John Connors.
Thank you. Last Sunday at 4 o'clock, we had a tribute to Sue Chu. And this,
Okay.
up close. And the church was filled with a vast array of people, many of them Republicans. And that's wonderful. And they thought that Sue Chu did remarkably honorable work. And there was a place where we could bring together people of different faiths and celebrate a life. And that's a wonderful thing.
Thank you for that reflection. I want to elaborate on that just a little bit. John was reflecting on the memorial service for Sue Chu last Sunday, full house. And what was also so very special about it was the way that this community and all of you rose to the occasion to open our doors, to make this space ready, beautiful, welcoming, and such a glorious way for us to have the honor, deep honor and privilege to say farewell to our beloved Sue Chu. It was just really such an honor to be representing the community who is able to do that and do it in such a loving way. And it took so many dedicated people to make that happen. So thank you all. Where did I see a hand? Over here. Okay, I'll come back to you. I saw one and then I lost track. I'm sorry. Okay, we have like 3 more.
Hi, it's so glad to be back to my second home. My dad, who was born 100 and some odd years ago, had a best friend who was a Unitarian, and I think the Unitarian Universalist combined, when was that? Do you know when that
1961.
1961, and I remember going to his church, but I also remember the friendship that my dad had with this wonderful man. And so I'm glad to be back to my second home, and happy spring, happy summer.
Thank you. It's good to have you back. How many of you have made a really amazing friend as being a part of this church? Yeah, what a great way to make really amazing friends. How are you, Kristen?
So Sundays are like the one day that I might possibly get to sleep in every week. And I'm always happy that I come here, but there are weeks where my daughter's like, are we going to fellowship? Are we going to fellowship? And I tell her, I'm like, if you set your alarm and you get up and you tell me I want to go to fellowship, then we will go to fellowship, because I'm just energy zapped, right? And without fail, Cambria will set that alarm, come give me a shake. And I'm always glad that she does, because for her, this is the space where she feels safe and she can be 100% herself and authentic and accepted in this community. And even though my other children don't come here as often for various reasons, finding a UU fellowship was a foundational requirement for my oldest when she was looking for colleges for the fall. So that is celebration for me, that I'm here every week. I never regret being here. My daughters feel safe, and we have community.
Thank you.
Those of you who know me well know that I sit smack in the middle in the church with the Humanists of Idaho. I'm on the board of Humanists of Idaho, and I'm also state president of Church Women United. So this is my middle place. And I think of it not as something centered, but moving, and the words turn the world around come to life when we have a celebration of our trans friends and family. It's a thrilling event for me.
Thank you. Thrilling event. We could do a whole nother service where we just share our celebrations with each other. Do we have some on Zoom? No. Zoom friends, if you want to share a celebration in the chat, forgot to tell you could do that. Feel free to do that, and I'll share them right before our closing blessing. Thank you all so very much for for being part of the community in all of the ways that we are connected and celebrate all that we give to one another and to our larger community. I invite us all to join together in the spirit of prayer and meditation. Spirit of life and love, holy mystery. Let us be a people of vocation, a people tuned to the call and the cries of the world to love one another and all our neighbors, to care for our planet, to help nurture and build a world of joy and justice, of freedom and flourishing, of care and compassion. Let us celebrate the legacy upon which we cast our vision to build a new way, to live our values boldly and bravely, embracing beauty and serenity, creating a refuge, a home, a beloved community for all those who seek us, for those searching for welcome and connection, to restore their weary spirits, our weary spirits, and lift our hearts. Let us be a people and a place of possibility and curiosity, of comfort and inspiration, of healing and transformation, driven to hold love at the center of it all and to love each other well. In the name of all that is holy, we pray. Amen.
May God bless you and keep you always. May your wishes all come true. May you always do for others. Let others do for you. May you build a ladder to the stars and climb on every rung. May you stay forever young. Forever young, forever young. May you stay forever young. May you grow up to be righteous. May you grow up to be true. May you always know the truth and see the light surrounding you. May you always be courageous, stand upright and be strong. May you stay forever young. Forever young, forever young. May you stay forever young. forever young, forever young. May you stay forever young. May your hands always be busy, may your feet always be swift. May you have a strong foundation when the winds of changes shift. May your heart always be joyful, may your song always be sung. May you stay forever young, forever young, forever young. May you stay forever young. May you stay forever young.
Perfect timing. Amen, Samantha. Friends, I invite you to rise in body or spirit as you are able. Place your hands over your heart for our closing blessing. Gordon and Tamera, thank you for that wonderful reminder and your beautiful music. I am really so proud and grateful for all that we have accomplished together, and inspired by our vision and creativity and the beautiful humans in our midst, and most of all, by our heart. And I cannot wait to see it all come to life and to keep asking with all of you, what's next? Because together, when we lead with love and work together to continue growing in truth and righteousness, in strength and service, in joy and love, to keep building that ladder to the stars, then we can always together stay forever young. Blessed are we all. Go in peace.